Osprey Suites is a birth of an idea from our students, our faculty, our staff that incorporates community space and really was driven by this idea of what is it like to live in downtown St. Pete, but also engage in the university setting, right? So our students wanted to feel this very urban sense and this downtown living experience, but also have spaces where they could engage with each other and it feel very homey. So we balanced that urban experience with the comfortableness of the living room. So we go back and forth. We have the campus's first community kitchen, which we're super excited about. The community kitchen was built with a few different things in mind, not only ADA accessibility, but how do we incorporate nutrition and how do we focus on the student experience, preparing our students for life after college. And notoriously, stereotypically, of course, you hear so many students don't know how to cook when they leave the college experience. So we have teamed up with our dining provider, Airmark, to help bring some cooking lessons to the students and engage here in the community kitchen, as well as some local cooks and chefs from the area that have volunteered to come in and hang out, do some cooking demonstrations. So that's really exciting. In addition to that, we have a plethora of community spaces. So we really drove home on this idea of what is it like to build community, to engage with each other. And obviously right now in the middle of the pandemic, it's not ideal to engage in some of these spaces. But up in the halls where the students' rooms are, we have what we call 30-second spaces. So there's spaces built for people to have quick conversations and not engage in the hallway. Thinking about our students that may be handy capable, needing to still use the hallway but not interrupt a conversation. Those students can just scoot into those spaces. We also have a multi-purpose space. So the multi-purpose space was built for, in the future, having classes come to the residence hall and faculty engaging with our students in the space where they live that's more comfortable. We focus on bringing people together. And when we ran into the pandemic, obviously things shifted drastically. We spent a large portion of the summer focusing on how to bring those students back safely, but also not losing the experience all around. We recognize that our FTICs, our first time in college students that are coming in, lost a good portion of life events. They didn't get to experience prom. They didn't get to experience graduation in the same ways that we did, right? So we really did focus on how can we engage and bring them back in a way that is safe but also gives them the experience. So move-in, we focus really heavily on the in-person move-in. So people saw our faces covered by mask and plexiglass. But we also have our mandatory mask mandate inside the building. So students are required as soon as they leave their bedrooms to have their mask on and engaging any of the spaces. We have a ton of hand sanitizer stations around campus. So we are very much encouraging our students to engage in those spaces, as well as environmental testing. And environmental testing is something that you haven't heard a ton about in the news, but essentially what we are doing are we're having volunteers swipe spaces and surfaces around high traffic areas to see if there is a presence of the virus on those surfaces and in those spaces. And luckily we've been really fortunate to have no cases there. Our positivity rate is, I think the last time I checked, 0.002. So that's really exciting that we have a lot of compliance from our students to engage in ways that are safe. And I know across all three of our buildings in housing, our students say we really want to have that experience of being here on campus. So we're trying to do the right thing. So we have students wearing a mask and checking other students that may not be wearing a mask and saying, hey, it's a thing. This is a cultural shift for our students to do the right thing so they can experience college life. What we have done is really engage our students in kind of where they are. We have an increase in our social media presence, and we're posting more memes and more funny things for our students to engage in, which for us is very different than the kind of in-person programming. We've created our Bulls in the Cloud for the St. Pete campus. So there's a Canvas page where our students would traditionally go for their academic classes. There's a repository for programming on the Canvas site. So students that want to engage in a synchronous conversation will do it on Teams, and then we'll save it and allow it to be placed on the Bulls in the Cloud for them to engage asynchronously in the same educational experiences. So they say, hey, I can't be there for class, but I still want to talk, I still want to learn. Our RAs have more group mates, and they're having more conversations via email and via Instagram and TikTok and all of the things. I have learned more about TikTok and Reels in the last 4 months than I think any plus 30-year-old probably should. But our RAs are like, hey, that's where our students are, so we're figuring out a way to transform our educational content that would normally be in a program to be on these platforms where our students are already at. So we know our students don't want to sit in front of a screen any longer than they have to. They're doing it for class, they're doing it to talk to parents and connect with family members. So we recognize that screen fatigue. So we say, hey, well, where are you spending time when you're not looking at your computer screen? And it is on the Instagrams, the TikToks, the social media platforms. So we transitioned a good bit of our educational content to short little snippets, 1 minute, get in, get out memes that directly correlate with wearing a mask, or social media, social moments of people wearing masks before the pandemic even started. Having those moments in between our students where they're able to connect with educational material that doesn't look like educational material. Living learning community is a very specific term, and here on our campus we broadened it out to a residential community program. And a residential community program is an umbrella term. So our living learning communities, I'm going to get a little nerdy, a living learning community specifically has a class attached to it. So students will go into a classroom, or in our case, into a Teams or a Canvas experience, engage with a professor or a faculty member, where there's actual content, there's a curriculum built out in the academic standpoint. They get academic credit for a class, and that class lasts for the duration of the year. It can last for a semester or for an entire year. And luckily this year we're able to have the honors college engaging in one of our LLCs, and we also have leadership who's engaging in one of our LLCs. And our LLCs are thriving right now. They're engaging. They're doing a really fantastic job in shifting how we think about it, so we're collaborating. Honors, we're figuring out different ways to do service, and how do we engage in service opportunities in a pandemic. So shifting to think a little bit outside the box, and what are things that our students can do in their rooms or away from big groups to engage in things like that. Then we have theme communities. Our theme communities, similar to Stonewall Suites or Global House, really focus on an idea. So the idea there, they are not attached to a faculty member. They do have a staff member and a community partner that is engaged with that community, but they do a ton more informal meetings. So they have hangouts, they have Teams meetings where they come in, they learn about a specific topic. We also have first year interest groups. And our first year interest groups, our first one here on our campus is biology. So first year students that are interested in biology and want to be around other people that are interested in biology have the opportunity to live together and engage with an RA that is also in biology and a faculty member to come in and kind of oversee things. But there is no class, again, associated with it. So they're exploring, what does it mean to be a biology major? Where can they go with a biology degree? What should they do? What classes should they take? And really living around people that have a similar interest, with being loosely connected. I will say all of our residential community programs are doing an astounding job at really building the community, because they have an idea that they're centered around. So it is a lot easier to engage in a little bit more screen time if you're talking about something that you're really passionate about, right? So they're having the time of their lives, from what I understand. Our engagement is up with our residential community programs and in our asynchronous programming as well. We have had a long, rich history of LLCs here on our campus, even from the early days. We had leadership is one of our older ones, biology. We noticed our students really wanting to focus more on their academics and say, hey, I really need to focus on the classes I need to take for my degree, and I don't have a lot of extra classes to take. So we said, okay, well, now that we have students that really want to get in and get out in 4 years, not that they didn't want to do that before, but making sure that we're not adding additional coursework to our students' accounts, we said, how can we get a similar experience while also acknowledging our students' wants and desires to get in and get out in 4 years? And that is where the theme communities really grew from. We also had some really strong community partners, Metro Inclusive Wellness, the Office of Urban Development and Mayor Kreisman's office really come in and say, hey, we really want to engage with our students. How do we do that? And it was a perfect marriage of, okay, well, we have community members and offices across campus that want to engage with our students. We also need to create something for students outside the classroom that's not going to add to their credits overall. Why don't we build something similar to the LLC experience? And that's where our theme communities and FIGs really grew from. And our students came to us, and sometimes they come to us with it. So our students proposed an idea for King Suite, and King Suite is a community that's under development this year that was proposed by a student. They say, hey, we really want to have this experience, and what is it like to explore the African American diaspora in our current context in St. Pete, across the country? What does that look like? So we were able to team up with some really fantastic people across the community, Office of Multicultural Affairs, to build what does a curriculum look like with this student's idea. We work with the students very hands-on and say, okay, what do you want to learn? And they say, hey, we want to explore X, Y, and Z. Then we teach them, what is the learning objective? And we build the curriculum out step by step with the students, with our community partners. And we're excited that community is going to launch next year. And it is completely student-driven, which is for us the paramount for this type of experience, that our students are so engaged in this process that they want to build one themselves.